Hi. Let's do one thing. We'll do something interesting today. Let's pick up. So I have Google Trends in front of me. Let's do one thing. Let's create a podcast out of an ongoing trend. So first of all, I have Google Trends in front of me. So you can quickly go to trending now, and we'll select India, and then past 24 hours, all categories. We'll go to business and finance over here. Then we can see Accenture CEO, India GDP. Let's do something interesting, New tax regime. Let's do new tax regime. So click on that, and you see you have a bunch of news comes up and everything pops up in Google Trends. So we are gonna do one thing. Let's not read the news, but what if we just compile all the news and then take that to our favorite tool, Notebook LM, and then try to create a podcast out of it. So we'll do this one thing. Let's first ask ChatGPT. Hey, I want to create a podcast using Notebook LM. I mean, you can also not tell it and then just simply do it, but it's helpful. So I need news, and let's say I need latest news on the new tax regime in India. So we're gonna hold that, and then we're gonna come here and see okay. So you have the new tax regime, interest over time. This is fine. So you see all these related topics that are here, right? So let's just take a quick screenshot. We copy this whole thing. We go to ChatGPT and we just paste the screenshot over there. So now ChatGPT has more context. Like, okay, what do you want to do, and what is it more regarding? And then we are gonna say, give me a document where all relevant news items would be present, and let's press enter. Currently I am not using the agent mode or the deep research mode. Let's see how it goes. And then we're going to take that document, the whole dump, and then take it to Notebook LM. You can see it by default as starting to search on the web, because GPT-5 in itself figures out, like earlier version GPT-4 and earlier, what you had to do, you always had to allow it to search on the web. Now GPT-5, what it does, whatever task you tell it to do, it will figure out like, okay, what you're asking me to do, should I access the internet or not to make this happen? That is how it is able to take its short decisions. And then it's able to give you all the citations. So this came from Wikipedia, this came from another Wikipedia, this came from indiabriefing.com, Reuters, Economic Times, Reuters. So you can see this over here. Now, this is again, like it's too much text, right? Now we see, okay, roughly it took, so again, you can click here and see how many sources were there. But there are a bunch of sources. What we're going to do, we're just going to copy this whole thing. Then we go to a notebook LM. Then we create a new notebook. Over here in the upload sources, what we are going to do, you can see a bunch of options. We are going to do copy text for today, and you just paste it over here. Everything that came in, we are just pasting, but we also need to remove certain things. Like if you go back to ChatGPT, ChatGPT adds this initial part of intro that says like, okay, hi, where it is talking to us as a user. Then the actual message is there, and then it also ends with something. For example, more on India's tax regime reform. So what we're going to do, we are going to remove this, and we go to the bottom of it, and section E, I believe, was the last one. You can also like copy this part, but like anyways, let's try this thing. Section E is the last one. Then you can click over here, remove everything else. You click on insert. Now Notebook LM understands what you are talking about, and it tries to summarize the whole thing. And also you can see Notebook LM has introduced like a feature where it now supports podcasts and audio overviews in multiple languages. So you can see over here, I'm just gonna zoom in. So you can see this is Hindi. I believe this is Bangla. Correct me if I'm wrong. Gujarati, and we have like a bunch of languages. Marathi, like what I'm able to read and understand. So you have a bunch of Indian languages as well. Then you can click on. Then you have a bunch of options. Right. Let's go with the audio overview. We'll click over here and then just let Notebook LM do its job. You can see over here the audio is being generated. And as we know, Notebook LM takes in the information, generates audio waves out of it. Also can ask Courier, hey, by the time the audio podcast happens, hey, can you give me a short overview in 3 sentences? Let's see what happens. Oh, let's try with 5 sentences. So the audio started taking more than usual, what it used to be earlier. I believe Notebook LM has gotten like a lot of users, and this feature is pretty great. So you can see we asked in 5 sentences, but it was a pretty big sentence. We can do, hey, I meant short sentences. Let's see what happens. Okay, and doesn't come back. Effective on April 26, 12 lakh free. Okay, what if I make, let's say, 12.1 lakhs? And then you see if your income is 12.1 lakh, you would no longer be entirely tax free under the new regime. And it will give the whole thing new slab structure. 30% of income, 30% for incomes about 24 lakhs. Okay. So as you can see, normal Notebook LM, whatever you ask, it will answer. We are still waiting for the audio podcast to happen. It's going to take a while. In the meantime, let's check out the mind map feature. This is another thing, mind maps, that Notebook LM has started to offer. So it basically organizes your information that you have provided in a structure where you are able to understand, okay, what is a super category, and then it tries to break it down further. For example, there are vehicles as a category, and then you will be able to see like, okay, there are vehicles, then there are passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, and there are under passenger vehicles you can have like electric vehicles, and then IC, internal combustion engine vehicles, and so forth, right? So then there could be 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers. So it gives you like a logical structure which you can follow to like, okay, where can I go back and how, which information is coming from which a super category. So we're gonna wait for that. Okay, so you see now we have the podcast ready over here. So you can play the podcast over here, and there are 2 methods to play it. Let's just quickly see what it is. It's loading.
Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're really trying to cut through the noise, give you a clear understanding of some pretty massive economic shifts happening in India right now.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is. We've pulled together a whole range of sources, official government announcements, sharp industry analysis, all to give you this deep dive into India's huge tax reforms for 2025.
And it's more than just rules.
Exactly. It's not just parsing new regulations. It's about what these changes actually mean for your wallet, for businesses, and really for the whole economic picture.
Let's just skip it and see where it becomes something that we can grab on.
It's more about consistency, really. Historically, while the financial year is the standard, sometimes there were, let's say, slight variations or interpretations for different. It's still progressive. The new slab structure actually starts from 4 lakh rupees and it scales up, reaches 30%, switching tax regimes.
Okay.
For certain taxpayers, specifically those using ITR3 or ITR4 forms, there's a one-time option to switch back economic growth, especially for a more transparent, maybe more consumption-driven economy. It's fundamentally reshaping how India earns, saves, and spends.
The implications do feel profound. They touch everything from your personal financial planning right up to national economic strategy. So as you digest all these sweeping changes, here's maybe a final thought to chew on.
Okay.
With this much simpler tax structure and the explicit inclusion of things like digital assets, this big push for digital first, how might all this fundamentally change the tax culture in India?
Interesting question.
Will it maybe foster greater compliance, more participation, just by making the whole thing less intimidating? Or could it, perhaps by formalizing these new asset classes, actually push innovation in unexpected ways as people and businesses adapt? Think about how this might change not just how people pay taxes, but maybe how they think about their financial relationship with the state.
So that was it. You could see like, okay, the podcast felt like, okay, there are two people trying to talk to each other. It is conversational, not like one person just, reading out a script or something. So that is the podcast feature that, Notebook LM has. And that is how we were able to quickly create. We took one Google trend that was coming up. We asked ChatGPT to do some quick research. And then we took that research, what ChatGPT did, to Notebook LM. And Notebook LM then gave it a very engaging manner, conversational podcast, which we did not have to read anything. Of course, you still, if you have any questions, you can just, ask Notebook LM, like, hey, can you explain that? Can you explain this or that? There's another option available where you can, there's a real time podcast that happens, and it's an actual interactive one where you can also jump in and ask questions in the middle of an AI conversation. So that is also something which we're going to cover in the later video. Oh, this mind map is taking too long, so we are gonna cover the mind map as well in a later video. Okay, thank you.